we made it to Friday. We're going to begin this morning with the latest in the war with Iran as strikes continue to escalate across the Middle East. Overnight, state media for the UAE and Saudi Arabia said their militaries are both responding to new attacks from Iran. This comes as Israeli Defense Forces announced a new wave of strikes on Iran's capital of Tehran this morning.
Yesterday, a U.S. jet made an emergency landing following what an official familiar with the incident called suspected enemy fire. And new this morning, the U.S. is accelerating its deployment of thousands more Marines and sailors to the Middle East over the coming days. That's according to two people familiar with the decision. With sky-high oil prices shaking up the global economy, European leaders said Thursday that once the strikes stop, they'd be willing to help with reopening that critical Strait of Hormuz. Iran has effectively blocked the vital shipping waterway that supplies 20% of the world's oil. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel actually spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He asked when the war might end and what those days after might look like.
Many Americans do believe that Israel dragged the United States in this war and is now pulling the rest of the world along with it. How do you see this ending?
Well, I think we have concrete goals, how to do it, how to end it. We want to, as I said, decimate the ballistic missile program, which we're doing, decimate the nuclear program, which we're doing. I think that those are goals that are achievable, but I'm not going to put a schedule or a stopwatch on it. I think we have goals that have to be achieved, and we're not counting the days. But I will say this canard that we dragged the United States into it is not just a canard, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I think President Trump said it best, and I said it as well many times. There's always a danger in acting. But in conditions of existential threats, there's a much greater danger in not acting.
We have a team in place this morning to help us break it all down, including the war's growing political and economic fallout. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley joins us now from Tel Aviv with more. Matt, good morning. Let's start with that exchange between NBC's Richard Engel and Netanyahu. Did we learn anything new about the war's timeline and Israel's plans for after the war?
Yeah, I mean, well, we didn't hear anything new necessarily, but Netanyahu once again stated that there is no timeline. This was something that we've heard from the Americans, for a lot of folks, especially in the United States, who had been urging the president to wrap this up as quickly as possible, particularly people who are on his team. That might be coming as a disappointment. The prime minister said that he had heard from the president not to strike that South Pars oil field, the Iranian oil field that has caused so much controversy because of those Israeli strikes. The president had come out and publicly scolded Netanyahu, told him not to do it. We heard from Netanyahu last night saying he wouldn't. But the vengeance that the Iranians are exacting because of those attacks, well, that is ongoing. The Iranians have been striking oil installations, refineries, that sort of thing, throughout the Gulf region. And this is something that, of course, we had heard back and forth, the Iranians saying, we're not going to be striking these Gulf countries anymore. They still are. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed, and global markets are still reeling.
Matt, we know strikes continued across the Middle East overnight as we're discussing. What is the latest on the ground in Israel where you are this morning? What's this retaliation looking like? Give us more details.
Well, the Iranians have said that they were striking major energy installations in Israel, in Haifa, and then the southern port of Ashdod. There's no evidence that they really struck anything in the southern part of Israel. Authorities in Haifa said that there was very, very minor damage to energy installations up there, but that things seem to be moving along. So it looks as though the Iranian attacks, while ceaseless, are not quite as effective as the Iranians have been saying. This has been a pattern ever since last June.
And Matt, thousands more Marines and sailors are going to be deploying to the Middle East in the coming days. As we mentioned, that's according to two sources who are familiar with the decision. What else are we learning about those deployments?
Yeah, well, the president has been kind of back and forth on this. He's sending these troops, or at the same time saying there's not going to be boots on the ground in Iran. This is something that could change. The president has changed his mind before. This deployment of ground troops is an indication that there could be plans in the works for putting boots on the ground. The famous error that the United States has been talking about for the past several decades when it comes to foreign intervention, and one that so many people on the sort of dovish front in American politics have been trying to keep the president from doing. We don't know what these forces are going to be doing, but it looks as though they are coming to the region in huge numbers from all over the U.S.
All right, Matt Bradley reporting from Israel. Matt, thank you so much.
Well, for more on the fallout here at home, let's bring in NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good morning. So we've seen a lot of mixed messaging from the president since this war began, whether it's the timeline, his objectives here, or plans now to send troops to Iran. He was pressed on this last point at the White House yesterday. Let's listen.
Do you intend to potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you, but I'm not putting troops.
So you're just hearing about this decision to deploy thousands of additional Marines and sailors to the Middle East. What do you think about how this is impacting the president's image here at home and globally?
I think it's very difficult, Savannah, and I think that because of people I've spoken to, for the president to continue to prosecute this war with the political support that he would want domestically and abroad. And what I mean by political support abroad is foreign countries that are normally U.S. allies, that have long histories of being U.S. allies, engaging in his efforts both at diplomacy and at war. And what we've seen, especially from many of the European countries, is a complete lack of interest in coordinating with the president on this. So that's on the international front. Domestically, I think a lot of Americans don't understand what it is, not necessarily what the goals are, but what the means are going to be and what it means in terms of the cost in blood and treasure and time for the United States to be engaged in Iran.
Yeah, so you have forces, and then you just have the issue of money, and President Trump did confirm his administration is asking Congress for another $200 billion for the war. They're calling it a small price to pay. But how does Congress feel about this? I mean, is Congress going to approve it?
They say a small price to pay, but that's a staggering number. $200 billion is more than any of the individual emergency supplemental appropriations for Iraq and Afghanistan combined at the height of those wars. So $200 billion is a lot of money. As for Congress, I think there's a really good question as to whether they'll do it, but I think likely they will. Typically when a commander-in-chief asks for money for a war, it is something that is able to get support not just from the majority party, but from some of the folks in the minority party. We'll have to see how that plays out on Capitol Hill, of course, but I don't want to prejudge them. But one thing that it will do if he gets money for this war, it will essentially bless it from Congress. Once Congress spends money, the Supreme Court would and has shown that it considers that to be an approval of the war.
John, one of the ways that we're really feeling this at home is, of course, the price of gas. I know you spoke to some folks in Pennsylvania about that. What'd they tell you?
I did. I went to Millersburg, Pennsylvania, which is in a swing district, one of those ones that's going to be hotly contested in November. And I went to actually speak to Trump voters because I wanted to see, kind of pressure test where they are. A lot of them are with the president. We can listen to some of their voices here. What do you think about the decision to strike Iran?
I think it was a great decision.
Are you willing to pay higher prices at the pump if that's the cost?
Yeah, I'm willing to pay a little more, yeah.
Are you pleased with us being in Iran?
Not really. No, there should be no war.
I think we got to do what we got to do to keep this country safe. So, and if it means paying a little bit more in gas right now to keep everybody safe, then that's what we got to do. And eventually they'll come back down.
And not everyone felt that way. One woman I spoke to who was a Trump voter regretted it. Maybe that's a soft way of saying it, but we can take a listen to her here. If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You're a worthless pile of
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
And so you can see there's some mixed opinion there in that swing district. Pennsylvania's 10th, one of the ones that will decide who has control of Congress in November. President Trump's going to have to get some folks back on board and energized to go to the polls for Republicans.
Well, good morning.
If you weren't awake now, you are now.
Savannah, I don't get those reactions from you. Joe, I don't get those reactions from you.
Thanks for bringing us that.
That is the strongest gas station man on the street interview I've ever seen. All right.
Thank you.
Let's talk more about oil prices with Patrick DeHaan, who maybe take the temperature down a little bit. He's the head of petroleum analysis at Gas Buddy. Patrick, though, that might be a sign of how people feel right now. Oil prices still high, did retreat slightly this morning after Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. could soon unsanction Iranian oil that's stranded on tankers, bring it to the market. Also says about 140 million barrels in the U.S. could be released from, or that more could be released from crude from its reserves. Just how could those moves impact oil prices?
Well, it's certainly something to keep an eye on. I think a lot of Americans are getting really frustrated with what's happening. Today alone, over $500 million more Americans will be spending on diesel and gasoline combined, and that's a steep toll for the country. Over 20 states have seen gas prices go up over $1 a gallon in the last month, and now we're seeing 25 states where diesel prices are over $5. So, some of these moves can be small levers to improve the price of gasoline, such as the Jones Act waiver and the talk of waiving the summer gasoline requirement. But all in all, it still pales in comparison to the continued blockage of the Strait of Hormuz. That's the vital waterway, as you mentioned, that carries 20 million barrels of oil to the market every day. Until that is reopened, we're going to continue to see oil prices climbing.
How high do we think these prices could go as this drags on? I mean, what level would they need to reach, do you think, for us to really see a harmful impact on the economy as a whole?
Yeah, Savannah, we've seen gasoline prices over $4 only 127 days since 2009. We were over $5 for only 7 days back in 2022. Those are probably the levels where we'd start to see Americans rolling back purchases. Now, I do expect a lot of that is already happening. Spring break travelers may be trying to be more resourceful with finding low prices, but Americans really aren't going to start significantly lowering their demand until we hit some of those record-setting numbers. That's really what shocks Americans. And by the way, 2008's record high price of $4.08 a gallon, that equates over $6.50 a gallon in inflation-adjusted dollars. So we've got a way to go before Americans start getting out the bicycles and using their feet.
Let's take a closer look at gas prices, because AAA says right now the current national average is $3.91. That's up from $3.63 a week ago and $2.93 a month ago, so $1 in the last month. We know that's an instant impact for many drivers. Just overall, what does this mean? And you just touched on this for budgets and wallets. And are there things that drivers can do to try and mitigate some of those effects?
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to add up. When you see those dollars going up faster at the pump than gallons, it really becomes unsettling. And a lot of Americans are already spending $10 to $20 more every tank. Obviously, the larger vehicles are those spending quite a bit more. And there are things that motorists can do from their driving behavior, something that nobody wants to hear talk about, but fuel efficiency. Americans like to be in a hurry. A lot of us are stressed behind the wheel. Simply slowing down a little bit can increase the amount of miles you get out of every tank. And then shopping around and not going station to station in your car, but using apps like Gas Buddy and Google Maps and ways to find those lower prices. Loyalty programs at many stations will also offer you a discount of 5 to 10 cents. And there's wholesale clubs that have generally more aggressive prices. So a lot of different ways. If you put it all together, Americans can probably save 25 to 30% off on their gasoline bill.
And no doubt people are looking for all those options. All right, Patrick DeHaan, thank you so much.
Well, unfortunately, things could get even worse at our airports in the next few days. This is all because of that partial government shutdown. TSA agents are calling out in record numbers. Some are deciding to quit altogether. And then, of course, it's spring break travel season, and we've had some wild weather. Well, this is the third time in 6 months that TSA agents have worked without pay. And while there's been little progress to end the shutdown, the Department of Homeland Security is concerned these airport headaches will only get worse. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist is at Hartsfield International Airport in Atlanta with the latest. Aaron, good morning.
The world's busiest airport is living up to that nickname this morning. We are watching the TSA lines here at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International. This is actually the good line that we're looking at right now, with the wait time in the 45 to 48 minute range. But the reality at the main checkpoint is closer to 2 hours. And this is something that we're seeing play out in airports all over the country. We've seen it all week long. It is continuing today, and there is the potential for it to get worse. We know that TSA officers who are not being paid right now because of the partial government shutdown, that shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, many of them have been calling out out. Right now, there's about a 10% call-out rate that we've been seeing this week. Here at this airport, it is much higher, closer to 40% at different points during this week. Those officers are calling out. We know that more than 300 TSA officers across the country have quit their jobs altogether because they just can't make ends meet while they're waiting weeks and weeks for a paycheck with this shutdown now in day 35. If there is a glimmer of hope, it is the fact that senators who've been negotiating a deal to try to get the agency back open did have a meeting yesterday with the White House. We're told no deal was struck there, but the fact that their meeting could represent some progress as travelers here are dealing with frustrations and headaches. Those TSA officers are dealing with the same frustration and headaches as we wait for this shutdown to end. Back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
Let's get right to your morning News Now weather with meteorologist Angie Glassman.
She's here in studio. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning to you. We've got 38 million people still dealing with the heat. It's a bigger chunk of the country than just what you're seeing here, but these are the locations that are under alerts, and we're concerned for the dangerous heat. It does include Los Angeles, stretching up to San Francisco, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Tucson, all included in this here as we gear up for another day where this heat dome is just really making conditions quite miserable for a lot of folks. 85 degrees in Denver, feeling like summer across the middle of the country, extending out to the east, 84 in Little Rock, 78 degrees in Indianapolis. Even New York City expected to hit 58 degrees today. As you look down to Phoenix, 105. We're going to still be into the triple digits here for a lot of locations for the long haul. Palm Springs at 104 tomorrow, 90 degrees in Denver. That is 33 degrees above where we should be for this time of year. So not normal by any means. 97 in Amarillo, 96 in Austin, Nashville at 84, Indianapolis still into the 70s, and Washington, D.C. tomorrow gets into those mid 60s. So you can see that warmth spreading as far east as the East Coast. We do start to see things kind of moderating out in some spots. So we go from the mid 80s on Sunday in Paducah all the way to the low 60s by Monday, wrapping up our weekend and heading into our work week with some chillier conditions as well for Roanoke. Mid 80s on Sunday, into the 50s on Tuesday. New York City, you go into the low 60s by Sunday, but then you are back to the 40s by Tuesday. It'll stay a little cooler up across parts of the northern tier of the country. Sioux Falls, you end up into those mid 50s. So we'll see a little bit of a break from the heat, but it's going to take us a little while to get there. This is going to be something that essentially also adds to the fire threat that we're looking at across the middle of the country. So notice Casper, Cheyenne, Rapid City, Billings. We have that heat, but we've also got gusty conditions and low humidity. So we're concerned about that. Across, for our friends in the Pacific Northwest, we've got flood alerts as that atmospheric river event is ongoing. So there, it's not so much the heat, but the heavy rain that's causing some issues when it comes to the waterways. Even as we start to see things kind of quieting down with the rain falling, we're still likely going to have some difficulty when it comes to rivers and such still being at that flood stage. So notice this is the rainfall through tonight, anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches expected across this region. So we'll see some soggy conditions. We'll see some hot conditions, guys. That's going to be kind of taking us through at least the weekend.
It's been quite the week.
It has been quite the week, yeah.
Whiplash
in some spots.
No
I
kidding.
mean, the snow in some and the heat, it's just crazy. Yeah. Something's up. All right, Angie, thank you. Of course.
NASA's Artemis II Space Launch System rocket and the Orion spacecraft slowly heading back out to the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The rocket left the vehicle assembly building just after midnight. It was initially delayed because of high winds. The 4-mile trek to the pad expected to take up to 12 hours, traveling very slowly, around 1 mile an hour, to protect that precious cargo.
That is so cool. This is the second trip Artemis II is making to the pad. Last month, engineers discovered several issues during a rehearsal that have now been repaired. The crew of Artemis II is scheduled to launch on April 1st for a 10-day mission around the moon and back.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.